I woke up to the crack of a slap across my face. The sound echoed in the sterile quiet of the private hospital room, sharp and loud. My head snapped to the side, my cheek screaming with a hot, stinging pain. I tasted blood, a coppery tang on my tongue. I probed the inside of my cheek. Yep, broken skin. Caleb, are you done making a scene? The voice was arctic, stripped of all warmth. I slowly turned my head, the world swimming from a blur into sharp focus. A woman stood over me. She was tall, maybe 5'11" in her heels, poured into a black designer power suit that did little to hide a killer figure. Her face was a sculpture of perfect, severe angles, but it was frozen over, and her eyes held nothing but raw, undisguised disgust. Where the hell was I? The last thing I remembered was popping champagne with my partners, celebrating our company finally going public. Now, a hospital room and a slap from a stranger? Then, like a floodgate breaking, someone else's memories poured into my brain. Caleb Hayes, 24. For 3 years, he'd been the Sterling family's resident failure. The guy who'd married into a fortune and done nothing but embarrass his wife. A coward. A nobody. His only talent was causing trouble for Isabel. Yesterday, he'd lost the last of his allowance day trading, got drunk to avoid going home, and ended up here with alcohol poisoning. And the Ice Queen glaring down at me? That was his wife, Isabel Sterling, the prodigy of Denver's business world, CEO of $1 billion corporation. So that was it. I, Caleb, had died in my world only to wake up in the body of this pathetic loser who shared my name. Still playing dead? Isabel's voice dropped another 10 degrees. My lawyer has the divorce papers ready. They'll be delivered tomorrow. Name your price. What will it take for you to sign? Divorce? Is this for real? Hell yes. I was just wondering how to get out of this mess. A settlement? You bet your ass I want a settlement. How else am I supposed to get seed money? The tech in this world is at least 5 years behind where I came from. This place is a gold rush waiting to happen. Drones, streaming algorithms, EV tech. I could make a fortune with my eyes closed. My mind was doing cartwheels, but my face had to match the role I'd inherited. I lowered my head, letting my shoulders tremble. My voice was barely a whisper. Izzy, I'm sorry. Please, just give me one more chance. Isabel's brow furrowed. Of course, she'd heard it. From the moment she'd walked into the room, my unfiltered, exultant internal monologue had been broadcasting directly into her head. At first, she thought it was a stress-induced hallucination. But now, watching my pathetic little performance, she knew. That voice was coming from inside my head. Drones? Streaming algorithms? She thought with a cold, internal sneer. A man who couldn't even read a stock ticker was going to build a tech empire? You can't polish a turd. A chance. Isabel's voice was laced with a chilling finality. Caleb, my patience has a limit. Do you have any idea how much you've humiliated me? How much you've humiliated the Sterling family over the past 3 years? Your little stunt with the alcohol poisoning made the local news. It affected our stock price. Do you think I'm keeping you around so the whole city can laugh at me? The older woman standing behind her, my mother-in-law Susan Sterling, surged forward, a finger jabbing at my face. You're a curse on this family. I was blind to ever let you marry my daughter. You've been a freeloader for 3 years, and now you're throwing our money away. A divorce is the only answer, and you're not getting a single cent from us. Ah, the Wicked Witch has arrived. What a performance. With that spiteful scowl, she could be a classic Disney villain. Not a cent. Dream on. You don't pay up, I'll stand outside your weekly bridge club with a sign that says, Son-in-law of Sterling CEO, starving in the street. Let's see who's more embarrassed then. Isabel's lips twitched, an almost imperceptible spasm. Wicked Witch. She glanced at her mother, who now had her hands on her hips, spittle flying as she ranted. The resemblance was unfortunate. Shaking off the bizarre image, she pulled a platinum card from her purse and tossed it onto the bedside table. There's $50,000 on that. Sign the papers, take the money, and get out of my life. Susan squawked. Isabel, you can't give him money. That ungrateful leech doesn't deserve a penny. 50 grand? Not bad. That's plenty to get started. I could buy a professional drone rig, rent a small workshop. The rest will cover living expenses for a few months. The Ice Queen may be cold, but she's generous. For $50,000, maybe I'll give her a friendly tip if I ever see her company heading for bankruptcy. I lifted my head, my eyes glistening with unshed tears, my expression one of utter devastation. Izzy, how can you be so cruel? After 3 years of marriage. Shut up. Isabel snapped, her temple beginning to throb. This man, the things that came out of his mouth were the complete opposite of what was going on in his head. He was whining about their marriage while mentally allocating her money for his new company and magnanimously planning to give her a tip someday. The nerve. On what grounds? Based on the delusional fantasies running rampant in his brain? 50,000. Take it or leave it, Isabel said, her voice flat. She couldn't stand to look at him for another second. I stared at her, my face a mask of anguish. My hand trembled as I slowly, so slowly, reached for the card. I clutched it in my fist as if it were the final weight crushing my soul. Fine, I'll sign. Susan stomped her foot in frustration, but didn't dare argue with her daughter. Isabel gave me one last, long look, then turned and walked out. She was afraid that if she stayed any longer, she might actually throw this two-faced con artist out the window. She's gone? Freedom. 50 grand in the bank. It's go time. I gripped the card, my mind already blueprinting a business empire. I didn't see Isabel pause at the doorway, her back still to me. For the first time, her expression wasn't just ice and disgust. It was something far more complex. It was confusion. The next day, feeling like a new man, I checked myself out of the hospital. The divorce papers arrived as promised. I signed my name with a flourish, the whole process smooth as silk. The paralegal who delivered them, a prim woman in gold-rimmed glasses, looked at me with open surprise. She probably expected the man who usually clung to Isabel like a limpet to put up a fight. I couldn't have cared less. Papers in one hand, bank card in the other, I took an Uber back to the home I'd lived in for 3 years, a sprawling mansion in Cherry Creek. Time to pack my things and get out. There wasn't much to pack. I had always been a temporary guest here. A few clothes, barely any personal effects. I dragged my single suitcase downstairs. My mother-in-law, Susan, was lounging on the sofa in the living room, a green facial mask on, chattering on her phone. Yes, it's done. The loser is finally gone. What? 50,000? Oh, that silly girl. She's too soft-hearted. But I suppose it's a small price to pay to be rid of him. Now Isabel can finally find a man who's worthy of her, like Trevor Vance. So handsome, so successful, and he absolutely adores her. I walked past her without a word. Trevor Vance? That hack who built his company by stealing other people's IP? His father's company is 6 months away from total collapse, thanks to a leveraged buyout that's about to go sideways. He'll be king of the trust fund bankrupts. The old witch really has an eye for picking winners. On the sofa, Susan's body went rigid. Did she just hear something? Was that Caleb, that waste of space, talking? She ripped off her mask and looked over. I was already at the front door, dragging my suitcase, my mouth shut tight. Must have been hearing things. Probably just stressed from all the drama yesterday. I pulled the door open, ready to step in my new life, when Isabel walked in. She was wearing a beige trench coat today, making her look less severe, almost soft. She saw my suitcase, her expression unreadable. She just gave a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement. Wow, she cleans up nice. It's a shame, a woman like that getting targeted by a creep like Trevor Vance. Not my problem, though. We're divorced. I need to get moving. I've got to hit up the Denver tech market this afternoon. Isabel stopped right in front of me. She'd heard it again. Vance's company was going to collapse. The thought sent a jolt through her. Vance Tech was the talk of the town right now. Their new smart home system was getting rave reviews, and their stock was soaring. And yes, Trevor Vance had made his interest in her very public. Susan was practically planning the wedding. Isabel had no personal interest in Trevor, but as a businesswoman, she'd done her due diligence on his company. It looked solid. How could it possibly be on the verge of collapse? Where are you going? Isabel asked, her voice as cool as ever. Papers are signed. Money's in my account. I'm going wherever I want, I said with a shrug, projecting an air of, we're even now. Where am I going? To make money, obviously. You think I'm going to stick around here and listen to the Wicked Witch all day? Still, this house is damn comfortable. Once I'm rich, I'm going to buy one just like it. No, bigger. Way bigger. Isabel stared at me, a familiar wave of irritation rising. On the one hand, his arrogance was infuriating. On the other, The strange, business-related pronouncements that popped out of his head were like little splinters, impossible to ignore. "Wait," she said, stopping me. I turned back, my face a perfect picture of impatience. "What now, Ms. Sterling? The deal is done. What more do you want?" She pulled a file from her briefcase and handed it to me. "This is a problem we're having at the office. Take a look." I froze. Is she nuts? Showing me confidential company files? I'm the ex-husband who's 5 seconds from being out the door. As far as she knows, I'm a functional illiterate. Is she trying to humiliate me? Or is she just flexing how important she is? Women, go figure. My mind was racing, but I took the file. It was about a patent infringement lawsuit. Vance Tech was suing Isabel's company, claiming they had stolen the core patent for their new product. I scanned the first page and almost laughed out loud. Huh, you've got to be kidding me. This is their core patent? This is just some open source code some junior at MIT posted on GitHub 3 years ago. They just tweaked a few variables and filed a patent? That idiot Trevor is dumber than a box of rocks. If she loses this case, I'll personally twist my own head off and give it to her for a footstool. Isabel's eyes were locked on me. Open source code? A junior at MIT? Listening to the live commentary in my head, she felt a tidal wave of shock. Her legal and engineering departments had been tearing their hair out over this lawsuit for days, unable to find a crack in Vance's case. The patent was airtight, a fortress from both a legal and technical standpoint. And to Caleb, it was just some kid's open source project. "You understand this?" she asked, her tone probing. "Nope," I said, tossing the file back at her, my expression screaming, "Don't ask me." "Ms. Sterling, I'm a loser. You've known that for years. This is way over my head. If that's all, I'll be going." Without a backward glance, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out. Gotta get out of here. Any longer, and she's gonna figure out something's up. If she knew I could solve this for her, she'd never let me leave. I want nothing more to do with this family. My destiny is out there among the stars. Watching my retreating back, Isabel clutched the file in her hand. For the first time, she began to doubt her own judgment. This man, was he really just a loser? I checked into a decent hotel downtown, took out 20 grand in cash, and went straight to the biggest electronics supply house in the city. In this world, the drone industry was still in its infancy. Most of what you could buy were clunky toys for hobbyists, with terrible performance and short battery life. There was no real commercial market. To me, a guy from a world where drones were used for everything from logistics and agriculture to security, this was virgin territory. My head was swimming with proven tech designs and business models. I spent the whole afternoon buying components: high-torque brushless motors, a carbon fiber frame, the flight control module, a long-range video transmitter. The owner, seeing a young guy buying all top-of-the-line parts, figured I was some rich kid with a new hobby and chatted my ear off. I played along, my mind racing with calculations. Okay, with this setup, the performance will blow everything on the market out of the water. I can get an hour of flight time, a 5-kilometer transmission range, and with a 3-axis gimbal, the footage will be cinema quality. I'll build a prototype, shoot some epic aerial footage, post it online, and wait for the investors to come knocking. That night, I turned my hotel room into a workshop and started building my first game-changing drone. Soldering, wiring, calibration. It was all second nature. This was literally my first startup in college, back in my old life. While I was working, Isabel wasn't idle. She went back to her office and called an emergency meeting with her legal and R&D heads. "Search," she ordered, slapping the patent file on a massive conference table. Her voice left no room for argument. "Search every university and public open source computer science database in the world. Go back 5 years. I want you to find an algorithm structure similar to the code in this patent." The head of legal looked pained. "Ms. Sterling, the sheer volume of data. It's like finding a needle in a global haystack." The CTO nodded. "He's right. And we don't even know what we're specifically looking for." Isabel's gaze turned to ice. "Then you'll search line by line. I don't care how you do it. I want a result in 3 days." The atmosphere in the room plummeted. Everyone was baffled by the sudden, impossible command. They didn't understand how she could be so certain this supposed open source code even existed. It defied all logic. But they didn't dare question her. They saw a terrifying, unshakable conviction in her eyes. They had no idea her confidence was based entirely on a single, arrogant thought she had overheard from the man she despised. She was taking a gamble. She was betting that the nonsense spouting from his brain was, for once, the absolute truth. For the next 2 days, I was a hermit in my hotel room, doing nothing but building and testing. On the morning of the third day, a sleek, black drone that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie hovered silently in the middle of my room, emitting only a faint hum. I watched the crisp, stable image on my phone's screen and grinned. Success. Perfect. Now to get some killer footage. The abandoned factory on the outskirts of town, the sunrise from Summit Peak. Both are perfect spots. Once the video goes viral, I'll call it Apex Dynamics. Yeah, that has a ring to it. Just as I was basking in my triumph, someone knocked on the door. I figured it was housekeeping and yelled, "Come in." The door opened. It was Isabel. My stomach dropped. How did she find me? Crap, the divorce isn't finalized. Legally, I'm still her husband. She could have tracked my credit card in 2 seconds. I was careless. What does she want? Is she here to take back the 50 grand? I quickly landed the drone and shoved it under the bed. Isabel's eyes swept the room, finally landing on me. Her expression was a complicated mix of curiosity, doubt, and something else I couldn't quite decipher. "You've been here for 2 days?" she asked. "Where else would I be?" I shrugged, putting on my best I've got nothing to hide face. "Don't worry, Ms. Sterling, I haven't wasted your money. As soon as the paperwork is finalized, I'll be out of your hair for good." She didn't respond to that. She just watched me. Then she said something that nearly made me jump out of my skin. "Trevor Vance's company is finished." "What?" I stared at her, genuinely shocked. "Finished? Already? I thought it would take a few more days." Damn, this woman is efficient. How'd she do it? Did she actually find that open source code in that global haystack? Holy crap, she's on another level. Isabel saw the flash of surprise in my eyes and heard the mental tsunami that followed. She was feeling a similar storm inside. They had found it. Just that morning, her tech team, buried in an obscure forum for a European university, found a post from 3 years ago. It contained the code. The core logic was identical to Vance Tech's revolutionary patent. The proof was irrefutable. She didn't even need to go to court. She had her assistant send a copy of the evidence to Trevor Vance. An hour later, Vance Tech officially withdrew the lawsuit and issued a public apology. The statement was vague, citing a technical misjudgment, but everyone in the industry knew what it meant. Their stock cratered. Trevor Vance became the laughingstock of Denver's business community. And it all happened because of a single throwaway thought from the man standing in front of her. Isabel looked at me, feeling for the first time like she couldn't see through a person at all. "How did you know?" She finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind for 2 days. "Know what?" I played dumb. "Ms. Sterling, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just a loser, remember? Deny, deny, deny. Never admit anything. Otherwise, she'll get suspicious. This woman is too smart. I have to play it safe around her. My company, Apex Dynamics, hasn't even been born yet. I can't let her crush it in the cradle." Isabel's gaze deepened. She didn't speak, just stared, her powerful presence making the room feel small. Just when I thought I was going to break, she spoke. "I'm not signing the divorce papers." "Why not?" I blurted out, my voice cracking. "Not signing? Are you kidding me? We had a deal. A clean break. Don't tell me she's figured out my value and wants to keep me around as some kind of unpaid consultant. No way. Not happening. Caleb Hayes does not live off a woman." Isabel saw the panic on my face, and a tiny, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. It was the first time I'd ever seen an expression resembling pleasure on her face. "Because," she said, pausing for effect before delivering a reason I couldn't refute, "our marriage was arranged by my grandfather before he died. He made me promise we'd stay married for at least 5 years. It's only been 3. Using a dead man as an excuse? Brilliant. Absolutely ruthless. This woman is not only a shark, she's shameless. But she's not wrong. The old man did put this whole thing together on his deathbed. Still, why should I have to honor a promise made to a ghost? That was the old Caleb's promise, not mine," I said coldly. Isabel raised an eyebrow. "Oh, if you're not Caleb, then who are you?" My blood ran cold. I'd slipped up. Damn it. Too cocky. I almost blew my cover as a transmigrator. Calm down, Caleb, just calm down. Don't panic. I took a deep breath and put on a tragic expression. Of course I'm Caleb. What I mean is the old Caleb, the pathetic man who followed you around like a puppy. He died in that hospital. The man who woke up is someone new. The explanation was flawless. Isabel studied me for a few seconds, then let it drop. New or old, she said. The divorce is on hold. That $50,000, consider it your allowance. This hotel is a dump. You're moving back into the house. Without waiting for a reply, she turned to leave. At the door, she stopped and looked back. And that thing you have hidden under your bed. The construction is clumsy. The airfoil design on the rotor arms is wrong. It's creating too much drag. And the gimbal, the axle spacing is too narrow. It'll cause micro vibrations at high speed and destabilize the image. My brain short-circuited, a dial tone of pure shock. How could she possibly know that? When did she see it? And how did she know exactly what the technical flaws were, pinpointing every single one? I dropped to my knees and lifted the bed skirt. My Apex 1 prototype was sitting right there. Isabel was gone, leaving nothing behind but an inscrutable silhouette in my memory and a room full of my shattered assumptions. What kind of monster was this woman? In the end, I moved back into the mansion. It wasn't that I was a coward. It was a strategic retreat. Isabel was playing on a level I couldn't compete with yet. If she could find me at the hotel, she could track me anywhere. A direct confrontation was out of the question. More importantly, she had diagnosed the technical flaws in my drone with a single glance. That meant she wasn't just some suit who understood balance sheets. She had an unervingly sharp technical mind. My casual dismissal of her was a mistake. Fine, I'll lie low for a while. It's a marriage in name only. She lives upstairs, I live downstairs. We can stay out of each other's way. Plus, the house has a huge garage I can use as a workshop. Once my company takes off and I have my own power base, we'll see who's calling the shots. I dragged my suitcase through the front door for the second time in as many days. In the living room, Susan's face soured as if she'd bitten into a lemon. Why are you back? Isabel, did you let this loser sweet-talk you again? I ignored her and headed for my old room in the basement. The Wicked Witch's voice is as shrill as ever. She really needs to see someone about that. When I'm rich, I'll buy her a VIP package at the most exclusive retirement community, where she can argue with other old snobs all day. It'll be a public service. You, Susan shrieked, her body trembling. She'd heard it again. That voice. She pointed a shaking finger at my back, sputtering, What did you just say? I stopped and turned, an innocent look on my face. Ma'am? I didn't say anything. Yes, you did. You called me. Susan wanted to say Wicked Witch, but the words wouldn't come out. Isabel chose that moment to descend the grand staircase. She was in silk pajamas, her hair tied up loosely. She looked less like a CEO and more like, well, a beautiful woman. Mom, what are you shouting about now? Isabel, he insulted me. Susan cried, pointing at me as if I'd just committed a murder. Isabel's eyes fell on me. Oh, hell, I didn't even open my mouth. The old bat must be paranoid. Or, can she hear me too? No way. Is this thing like a passive AoE attack? I started to get nervous. If Susan could hear me, this was going to get complicated. Isabel saw my guilty expression and her mother's apoplectic rage, and she put 2 and 2 together. It seemed her front row seat to my inner monologue might have a few extra chairs. But her mother's reaction was pure rage, while she was able to filter the noise for valuable intel. Interesting. Mom, you must have misheard, Isabel said calmly. Caleb just got here. He hasn't said a word. You haven't been sleeping well. I'll have the cook make you some chamomile tea. She shot me a look. It was a complex expression, part warning, part morbid amusement. I got the message. So it's not just her. Wait, her reaction seems genuine. Maybe it's an intermittent signal for her. Whatever. As long as the final boss, Isabel, doesn't call me out, I'm safe. I kept my head down and disappeared into my room. Susan, steamrolled by her daughter, slumped back onto the sofa, muttering under her breath about disrespect. That night, I converted the garage into a proper workshop. I disassembled the Apex, one, and started redesigning it based on Isabel's critiques. I hated to admit it, but she was right. Adjusting the angle of the rotor arms increased stability. The gimbal's vibration dampening needed a complete overhaul. This woman is a damn prodigy. Beautiful and brilliant. It's a shame she's an ice queen. If she were just a little warmer, she'd be... Whoa, what am I thinking? I'm destined to be a titan of industry. I can't get distracted by a woman. Focus on the money. Build the empire. I was sketching out a new design when the garage door slid open. Isabel walked in, holding a glass of milk. For you, she said, placing it on my workbench. I was stunned. The fox bringing the farmer a gift. This can't be good. Is this milk poisoned? Is she trying to kill me so she can inherit my... Wait, I don't have anything. So she wants to drug me and dissect my brain to see why I suddenly got smart? Isabel watched my wary expression and listened to the spy thriller plot unfolding in my head. A vein in her forehead started to pulse. She really wanted to throw the milk in my face. It's not poisoned, she said, her voice tight. Oh, thanks, I mumbled, not touching the glass. Silence descended. I went back to my schematic, and she stood there, watching me. I could feel her gaze like an X-ray, scanning me, scanning my work. It was unsettling, like being a C student try to cheat on a test while the valedictorian watches over your shoulder. Your cooling system is inadequate, she finally said, unable to stop herself. My pencil froze. The high-output motors will generate significant heat during sustained flight. Your passive heat sinks won't be enough. You need to add an active cooling fan and cut ventilation ports into the chassis. She pointed at my drawing, her tone that of a stern professor lecturing a slow student. I was speechless. Damn it. She saw it again. Who is this woman? Is she some lead engineer who escaped from Lockheed Martin? Marrying into her family was a huge step down for her. No, wait, it was a huge step down for me. My ego was roaring, but my face remained placid. I quietly picked up an eraser, scrubbed out my old design, and started sketching a new one based on her instructions. Seeing my docile compliance, Isabel felt some of her irritation fade. Did you study this before? She asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. Nope, I said without looking up. Just messing around. I can tell you I have a dual degree from MIT in my past life. That I was a billionaire by 28 from selling a company based on this exact tech? Not a chance. Not in a million years. Isabel just stared. She was starting to think that every conversation with this man would shorten her lifespan by at least a year. She took a deep breath, deciding not to torment herself further. Don't stay up too late. She left me with that and walked out. I looked at her retreating back, then at the still warm glass of milk on my workbench, a strange feeling churning in my gut. This divorce was getting harder to secure by the day. Over the next few days, Isabel and I fell into a bizarre rhythm. By day, we were strangers under the same roof. She went to her office. I locked myself in the garage. We barely spoke, except for a few words at the dinner table. That was on the surface, anyway. In reality, our communication was constant. This gimbal stabilization algorithm still isn't perfect. There's a slight jello effect in the video on high-speed turns. Crap, if only I could get my hands on a high-precision gyroscope. But that's military-grade stuff. You can't just buy it. The next day, I walked into the garage and found a small, unmarked box on my workbench. Inside, nestled in foam, was a silver metallic component. It was a high-precision, military-grade gyroscope, a piece of equipment that was virtually impossible to acquire commercially. Holy crap, where did she get this? Does she have connections with the freaking Pentagon? I looked up, stunned, just in time to see Isabel walking down from the main house, acting as if nothing had happened. A few days later, battery tech is still the bottleneck. The energy density of current lithium-ion cells is too low. If I could just get some graphene, using it for the anode would increase energy density by an order of magnitude. But in this world, mass production of graphene is still a pipe dream. The following morning, a new document was on my workbench. It was the latest research paper on graphene fabrication from a materials science professor at CU Boulder. It wasn't mass production, but it outlined a promising new technique. I held the paper, my hands trembling slightly. She's a monster, an absolute monster. How does she know what I'm thinking? Can she actually read my mind? No, that's insane. It has to be a coincidence. Right, a coincidence. She's just a top-tier CEO with incredible business instincts. I frantically tried to rationalize it away. But deep down, a terrifying thought had taken root. Meanwhile, Isabel listened to my desperate, internal monologues of self-deception, her expression growing calmer by the day, though the occasional twitch of her lips betrayed her amusement. She was discovering that teasing this man was becoming fun. Watching him, stripped bare of all his secrets but still stubbornly insisting it was all a coincidence, was almost cute. Isabel was horrified by the thought. Cute? She thought this freeloader was cute? She was definitely losing her mind. That night, I finished the final, upgraded version of the Apex one. Performance, flight time, transmission range, stability, it was superior to everything that currently existed. I was so excited I hugged the drone and did a little dance around the garage. It's done. The beast is finally done. Tomorrow I'm heading to Summit Peak to shoot the most epic sunrise time-lapse ever. Once that video drops, it'll break the internet. Investors will be lining up, throwing money at me. Apex Dynamics is about to take flight. Isabel Sterling, you just wait. Soon, I'll be standing on a stage so high, you won't be able to ignore me. And then we'll see who's in charge. High on my own success, I didn't notice the garage door open. Isabel walked in. Be ready at 5 a.m. I'll meet you out front, she said. For what? I asked, immediately on guard. We're going to Summit Peak. To watch the sunrise. My jaw dropped. My brain, for the second time, completely shut down. At 4:30 in the morning, the world was still pitch black. I stood at the end of the driveway, yawning, my precious drone packed safely on my back. A red Porsche 911 slid silently to a stop in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Isabel's face, alert and awake. Get in. I sighed and climbed into the passenger seat. The arrogance of the 1%, dragging me out of bed at this ungodly hour just to exploit my talent. And this car is so obnoxious. Does she have to broadcast how rich she is? Just you wait. When Apex Dynamics goes public, I'm buying a whole garage full of supercars. One for every day of the week. Isabel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She floored it. The car launched forward like a rocket, pinning me to my seat. Whoa. Attempted murder. What's the hurry? I haven't even founded my empire yet. I'm too young and handsome to die. Listening to my silent, theatrical screaming, Isabel's lips curved into that familiar, infuriating smirk. She eased off the gas, and the car settled into a saner speed. The rest of the drive was silent. Verbally, at least. My internal commentary never stopped. Okay, the interior is nice. Supple leather, great support. A little cramped, though. I prefer an SUV. When I make my money, I'm getting a Cullinan. Her perfume is actually pretty good. It's subtle. What is that, Joe Malone? Maybe I should ask. Wait, why do I care? I'm a man's man. You know, out of the power suit and in workout clothes, she looks younger. Almost like a college student. And her skin is flawless. You can't even see her pores from as close. In the dim light of the dashboard, Isabel's face flushed slightly. She started flipping through radio stations, trying to cover the sound of her own rapidly beating heart. What was wrong with this man? One second he's planning world domination. The next he's critiquing her perfume and analyzing her skin. At the base of Summit Peak, we parked and started hiking. The trail was steep and dark. I was carrying 50 pounds of gear and was soon panting for breath. Isabel, however, moved with an easy, athletic grace. Is she ex-special forces or something? How is she in such good shape? I'm dying. My legs are going to fall off. I knew I shouldn't have packed so many extra batteries. Just as I felt like I was about to collapse, a hand appeared in front of me. It was Isabel. Let me take that for a while, she said, her voice clear in the mountain silence. I stared at her. She wants to carry my gear? Is this a prank? She usually acts like I have the plague. What's gotten into her? Did her conscience finally kick in after exploiting me? I hesitated, then handed her the heavy pack. She swung it on her back without so much as a grunt. I followed behind, watching her slender but strong silhouette, a confusing mix of feelings stirring inside me. This woman, maybe she wasn't completely heartless after all. We reached the summit just before dawn. The sky to the east was a pale, pearly gray, and a sea of clouds churned below us like a fantasy landscape. I quickly set up my equipment and launched the Apex, positioning it perfectly. Putting on the FPV goggles, I was completely absorbed in my work. Isabel stood beside me, not saying a word. She just watched the horizon, waiting. When the first ray of sunlight pierced the clouds, setting the world on fire, I heard her let out a soft, involuntary gasp of wonder. In that moment, through the drone's lens, I saw the majestic birth of a new day. And in my peripheral vision, I saw her profile, illuminated by the dawn, so beautiful it stole my breath. It's beautiful, I thought. The sunrise, I added the last part quickly. But Isabel, of course, heard it all. Her lips curved into a soft, genuine smile. I spent the next day editing the footage, adding a cinematic score, and uploading it to YouTube under a brand new, anonymous account. The title was simple, Summit Peak Sunrise, as you've never seen it before 4K drone. Then I walked away. I knew good work would find its audience. For the next few weeks, I was back in the garage, but this time I was working on something new. The drone was just the first step. My real goal was to build a revolutionary short-form video platform. The entertainment in this world was stale, boring network television, and pointless news articles. People had no idea what was coming for them, the addictive, dopamine-hacking magic of a 15-second video. I started writing the business plan, mapping out my empire. The secret sauce is the recommendation algorithm, a unique feed for every user. We'll tag them based on likes, comments, watch time, then push them exactly what they want to see. We'll add a location-based feature to build a social graph. Then, live stream shopping for monetization. It's perfect. Funding is the only issue. Taking freelance drone jobs is too slow. I need an investor. Isabel. Should I bring her in? No. Partnering with her is like making a deal with the devil. I'd be completely devoured. I need to find a more straightforward investor. Deep in my work, I didn't notice Isabel standing in the doorway of the garage. She'd been there for a while, arms crossed, listening to the entrepreneurial storm in my head, her eyes gleaming. The ideas in his brain were bigger, more explosive than she had ever imagined. Recommendation algorithms, user tagging, live stream shopping. She'd never heard these terms, but her instinct screamed that this was an opportunity to completely upend the entire tech industry. She couldn't wait. She couldn't let him go find some dumber investor. This gold mine was hers to claim. The atmosphere at dinner that night was strange. Susan was uncharacteristically silent, though she kept shooting me looks as if she'd just seen a ghost. Isabel, even more bizarrely, actually served me a piece of short rib. Eat up. I nearly dropped my fork. What's her angle now? Is this my last meal? Is this dish the one that's actually poisoned? I have to be careful. I stared at the piece of meat in my bowl, my survival instincts on high alert. Isabel sighed. She put down her fork and dabbed her lips with a napkin. Caleb, we need to talk. Here we go. The main event. I put my fork down, ready for whatever was coming. I saw the video you posted, she began. My heart skipped a beat. She saw it. How's it doing? Did it go viral? How many views? Did any VCs reach out? My mind was a frantic mess, but I kept my face a blank slate. Oh, that? Just something I threw together for fun. It's nothing. 3 days. 1 million views. 50,000 comments. 10,000 shares. She recited the stats calmly. The entire tech section of YouTube is buzzing about your mystery drone. More than a dozen venture capital firms have contacted YouTube trying to get in touch with you. Holy crap. It worked. A wave of pure elation washed over me, but I forced my expression to remain neutral. I knew it. Talent will always shine through. Investors. Here comes the money. My empire is at hand. And I asked, looking her in the eye, and Isabel said, her gaze intense, you can forget about all those dumber investors. Your company, Apex Dynamics, and your short-form video platform. I'm your first and only investor. My brain, for the third and final time, flatlined. I, Caleb Hayes, a man of science and logic, was starting to question the fundamental laws of the universe. Isabel could not only hear my thoughts, she could apparently see the future. I had never spoken the phrase short-form video platform out loud. The business plan wasn't even finished. How could she possibly know? Unless. I looked at her calm, unreadable face, and the only possible, however absurd, conclusion finally solidified in my mind. She can actually read my mind. This isn't a coincidence. It's not a lucky guess. She hears every single word I think. This time, there was no rationalization, no attempt to explain it away. The evidence was overwhelming. Oh my God, for the last 3 years, I've basically been walking around naked in front of her. Every time I called her an ice queen in my head, every time I called her mother a wicked witch. She heard it all. I'm so dead. She didn't divorce me. She gave me money. She helped me get parts. She was just playing with me. She's been treating me like her own personal circus monkey. That evil, manipulative woman. She's waiting for me to exhaust every last good idea in my head. And then she's going to crush me and take it all. I was such an idiot. My face went from white to red to green. Across the table, Isabel watched the entire melodrama, from shock to terror to righteous indignation, play out in my head. And then, for the first time, she laughed. Not a smirk, not a small smile, but a genuine, musical laugh. It was like the sun breaking through a glacier. It was stunning. I just stared dumbfounded. In the 3 years this body had known her, I had never once seen her truly laugh. She's beautiful when she laughs. The thought ambushed me, and I immediately tried to shove it down. No, it's a trick, a honey trap. Don't fall for it, Caleb. Isabel's smile deepened. She was finding she quite enjoyed the private theater of my mind. Stop overthinking it, she said, her smile fading back into a neutral expression, though her voice was softer now. I'll admit I can. Here's some of your thoughts. She chose her words carefully. Some, I scoffed. You mean all of them, don't you? Pretty much, she admitted without shame. I felt like a deflated balloon. Every plan, every clever deception was a joke in the face of her superpower. So what do you want? I asked, all my fight gone. I told you. I'm investing in you, she said. We'll start the company. You'll be the CEO, in charge of product and tech. I'll be the chairman, handling capital and operations. I provide the resources, you provide the ideas. Profits are split 70-30. 70-30? Is she insane? I'm the core talent. She gets the lion's share? No way. 50-50 or the deal's off. 50-50, I said, the words tumbling out of my mouth before I could stop them. Isabel raised an eyebrow. Done, she agreed instantly. I froze. She agreed? Just like that? Crap. I should have asked for 60. I played myself. Isabel watched the look of pure regret wash over my face and had to suppress another laugh. Caleb, she said, her tone suddenly serious. I'll be honest. At first, I just wanted to see what you were up to. But over the past few weeks, I've seen what you're capable of. The ideas in your head. They could change the world. I'm a businesswoman, she continued, her eyes locked on mine. I don't pass up opportunities. And you are the biggest opportunity I've ever seen. Her gaze was sincere, intense. All the coldness was gone, replaced with an investor's appreciation and something more, expectation. I looked in her eyes, and my heart did a strange little flip-flop. Is she complimenting me? The Ice Queen is actually complimenting me? And she said I'm her biggest opportunity? This feels weird. Deal, I said quickly, before my thoughts could get any stranger. Making a deal with the devil was better than being the devil's plaything. If I couldn't fight her, I might as well join her. At least this way, we'd both get rich. Apex Dynamics was officially born. Our offices took up the entire top floor of the Sterling Tower. Isabel's efficiency was terrifying. I mentioned needing a team. The next day, a lineup of top engineers from Google and Meta were waiting for my interview. I mentioned needing servers. A small data center was built out in the adjacent suite by the end of the week. Money, resources, connections. All I had to do was think it, and Isabel would make it appear in the real world. It was like having my own personal genie. This is amazing. So this is the power of real capital. My first time around, I nearly killed myself trying to raise a seed round. Now I just have to think, and everything I need just shows up. Being a kept man is actually pretty awesome. Across the huge desk separating us, Isabel paused, her pen hovering over a contract. She glanced up at me. I immediately wiped the smug look off my face and pretended to be intensely focused on a line of code. I had fully accepted her mind-reading abilities, and I had started to, consciously or not, take advantage of it. During product meetings, I'd say something generic like, I think this UI design is a little too cluttered for new users. But what I was really thinking was, this shade of blue is hideous. It's like a punch in the eyeballs. We need to use a more muted, sophisticated palette. a soft gray with clean, minimalist icons. That's what looks premium. The next day, the design team would present a brand new UI, a perfect execution of a sophisticated, minimalist gray theme. At lunch, I'd say, whatever's fine, I'm not picky. But in my head, I'm so sick of greasy takeout. God, why would give for some of that brisket from a barbecue joint downtown? And their jalapeno cheddar cornbread. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. 30 minutes later, Isabel's assistant would walk in with a huge tray of brisket and cornbread for the whole office, saying, "Compliments from Ms. Sterling." My colleagues would cheer, praising her generosity. Only I would know the truth, silently eating my brisket with tears of shame in my eyes. I'm so weak. I'm a sellout. My soul, my prida, my dignity, all bought and paid for with slow-smoked beef. God, this is delicious. Under our unique partnership, the company grew at an explosive rate. Our short-form video app, which we named Orbit, was launched after a month of intense development. Thanks to a recommendation algorithm light years ahead of its time and a stable of influencers poached from Isabel's other media holdings, Orbit was an instant sensation. User growth was exponential. 100,000 on day 1, 1 million by day 3, 10 million in the first week. The entire tech industry was in an uproar. Everyone wanted to know who the mysterious Mr. Hayes behind the app was. But Isabel kept my identity under a complete lockdown. I was the ghost in her machine. That night, the company threw a party to celebrate 10 million users. At the reception, Isabel took the stage. She was wearing a shimmering silver gown and, under the spotlights, looked absolutely ethereal. She thanked the team, spoke of the future, and then her eyes scanned the crowd and landed on me, standing in the back corner. "Finally," she said, her voice carrying across the room, "I want to give a special thank you to one person. Without him, Orbit would not exist. He is the true soul of this company." Every head in the room turned to follow her gaze, and 100 pairs of eyes locked onto me. I froze, a glass of champagne halfway to my lips. Is she talking about me? Is she going to out me? No, it's too soon. The tallest tree gets the wind. I don't want that kind of target on my back. I stared at her, my heart pounding. Isabel simply smiled and raised her glass. "That person is every single one of our users. Thank you." A wave of relief washed over me. Phew, she's getting really good at messing with me. I had no idea that, on stage, Isabel was listening to my mental roller coaster and fighting to keep her expression serene, a gentle smile playing on her lips. After the party, Isabel was a little flushed from the champagne. I was the designated driver, helping her to the car. "Caleb," she said softly from the back seat. "Yeah. Do you think I'm a tyrant?" I paused. "A tyrant? Lady, you're a dictator, a queen, an empress. But without you, I'd still be nowhere. You're domineering as hell, but you've also given me your absolute trust and support. You're a charming despot, I guess." "No, of course not," I said aloud. "You're a brilliant and decisive leader." She chuckled softly, a sound that told me she knew exactly what I was thinking. She turned to look out the window at the blurred city lights. I never want to see you like you were before," she said, her voice barely a whisper. My heart twinged. "Before? She hummed, closing her eyes. 3 years ago, when my grandfather made me marry you, I didn't understand. He just said you were a diamond in the rough. He told me to be patient with you, but I wasn't. I watched you waste your days. I watched everyone laugh at you, and all I could think was that you were a disappointment. I hated you for it, and I think I hated myself a little, too. I was silent. I'd had no idea. The old man I'd never met had seen something in the original Caleb. A shame. The original guy was probably a sensitive, artistic soul. He never stood a chance in a family of sharks like this. He just withered. The old man had good instincts. He just didn't account for a hostile takeover of his grandson in-law's body. So, when you woke up in the hospital, Isabel opened her eyes and turned to look at me, her gaze piercing in the darkness, and you were different. I was happy. I finally got to see the diamond my grandfather was talking about. "Caleb," she said, each word deliberate and clear. "I'm never going to let you be buried again." The car was silent except for the hum of the engine. I looked at her face, so close in the dim light, at the intensity in her eyes that I had never seen before. And my heart, for the first time, felt completely and utterly thrown off orbit. After that night, our relationship shifted again. We weren't just business partners, and we weren't a couple on the verge of divorce. We were something else entirely. The closest of allies, tied to the same rocket ship. Orbit's growth was unstoppable, and with that growth came enemies. Our success was a direct threat to the established social media giants, especially the industry leader, Nexus. They launched a carbon copy of our app and started leveraging their massive user base to crush us. At the same time, a coordinated smear campaign hit the web, painting Orbit as a vulgar, data-thieving, brain-rotting menace. The company was under siege. The atmosphere in the boardroom was tense. Isabel, Caleb, Nexus is coming for us with everything they've got, our head of marketing said, his face grim. Their new app, Flash, is a complete ripoff, and they're throwing $1 billion in subsidies to poach our top creators. And our PR team is getting hammered, another exec added. The negative stories are spreading faster than we can debunk them. I sat at the head of the table, saying nothing, my mind racing. Isabel glanced at me. She knew I was working. Nexus? They're a dinosaur. All they can do is copy. They have no vision. Their advantage is their existing user base. So that's where we hit them. They have the social network. So will we. We fast-track the launch of direct messaging and group chats within Orbit. Create a closed ecosystem. They throw $1 billion at creators. We'll throw $2 billion. We can win a war of attrition. As for the bad press, that's even easier. They say we're trashy. We'll become the face of high culture. We'll partner with public broadcasting, museums, national parks. We'll launch a series on historical landmarks, local artisans, unsung heroes. Let's see them call us trashy then. The entire counteroffensive formed in my head in under a minute. Isabel's eyes lit up. When I was done thinking, she tapped her pen on the table, drawing everyone's attention. Then, she calmly, methodically, and flawlessly laid out the entire strategy one had just formulated in my head, presenting it as her own. First, R&D will launch DMs and group chats by the end of the week. Second, marketing will immediately announce the Creator Galaxy program, a $2 billion fund to support our top talent. Third, PR will begin outreach to PBS, the Smithsonian, and the National Parks Foundation for partnership opportunities. The room was stunned into silence. The executives stared at Isabel with a mixture of shock and awe. Under this immense pressure, their CEO had just off the cuff devised a brilliant, multi-pronged strategy to save the company. She was a genius. Only I sat there, my jaw on the floor. Are you kidding me? She just stole my thoughts and passed them off as her own. Wham I, her goddamn telepathic speechwriter. After she was done, Isabel gave me a look that said, "You got a problem with that?" What could I say? After the meeting, the executives scattered, newly energized. Only Isabel and I remained. I started at a loss for words. Yes, she asked, sipping her coffee, the picture of calm. That was plagiarism. I finally sputtered. You plagiarized my mind. Was it? She put down her cup, rose from her chair, and walked around the table until she was standing right in front of me. She leaned down, planting her hands on the arms of my chair, trapping me. Her subtle perfume enveloped me. Caleb, she whispered, her voice laced with amusement. Our partnership agreement is very clear. You provide the ideas, and I provide the capital. Wouldn't your thoughts fall under the category of ideas? I was speechless. Besides, she continued, her voice dropping lower. This company, all of it. It's mine. So naturally, your thoughts are mine too. Her warm breath ghosted across my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. I looked up into her eyes, sparkling with mischief, and felt my face heat up. She's a witch. An actual witch. Why is she so close? What is she doing? Is this her ultimate power move? I don't think I can take much more of this. Isabel watched my face turn crimson and listened to the sheer panic in my head, her smile widening. She reached out and gently tilted my chin up with her finger. So, do you have any objections? And no, I managed to stammer. Good. She straightened up and walked back to her side of the table. In that case, Caleb, if you could just rethink all the finer details of that plan for me. The more specific, the better. I just sat there, completely and utterly owned. Isabel's execution of my mental plan was flawless. Orbit's counterattack was a thing of beauty. We met Nexus's fire with a bigger fire, Our insane spending and new social features not only stopping the bleeding, but actually poaching users from them. Our partnerships with cultural institutions completely flipped the public narrative. Orbit became synonymous with quality, creativity, and positive content. Nexus's smear campaign collapsed. After that battle, our position as the king of the industry was cemented. The company's valuation soared past the $100 billion mark. And I, Caleb Hayes, the useless freeloader from a year ago, was now a secret multi-billionaire. That evening, Isabel and I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of our office, looking down at the glittering city lights. "We did it," I said softly. "We did," she echoed, a hint of awe in her voice. We stood in a comfortable silence, just watching the city breathe. A whole year. It feels like a dream. From a penniless nobody in a world I didn't know to this. I have everything. A career, money. And my eyes drifted to the woman standing next to me. And her. The woman I once wanted nothing more than to escape. Now, she's the one person I can't imagine being without. If it weren't for her, I'd probably still be struggling to raise a few $100,000. This year, she's yelled at me, manipulated me, exploited me. But she's also backed me, trusted me, and built this empire with me. She's such a contradiction. Ice and fire. You know, those divorce papers are still sitting in a drawer somewhere. The company is stable now. Maybe it's time to bring it up. Our marriage didn't start from a good place. It's only fair to give her the choice, to let her be free of it. The moment that thought formed, the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. I turned and saw Isabel staring at me, her expression colder than the day I first met her. "What are you thinking?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. My stomach plummeted. She'd hurt me. I stammered, trying to find the right words. "You want a divorce?" She took a step closer, her eyes like chips of ice. "No, I just thought." "You thought our beginning was flawed? You thought giving me the choice was the fair thing to do?" She let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "Caleb, do you think now that you're successful, you're in a position to talk to me about what's fair?" "That's not what I meant," I said, my voice rising in panic. "That's not it at all. I don't want to be tied together by some old contract. I want a new beginning, a real one that isn't about business or leverage or a dead grandfather's promise. One that's just about us." My mind was screaming, but my mouth was useless. Isabel stared at me, and to my horror, her eyes began to fill with tears. "Caleb Hayes," she choked out, "you are an absolute bastard." She turned and stormed away. I stood there, frozen, watching her leave, my mind a chaotic mess. I'd screwed up so badly. I ran after her, catching her just as the elevator doors opened. I grabbed her hand. It was ice cold. "Isabel, let me explain." "Let go of me," she cried, trying to pull away. "No." I tightened my grip, pulling her out of the elevator and into my arms, holding her tight. She struggled for a moment, then went still, her body trembling against mine. "Just listen to me," I whispered in her hair, breathing in her familiar scent, mustering up more courage than I'd ever had in either of my lives. This time, I didn't just think it. I looked her in the eyes and said it out loud. "Isabel, I don't want a divorce. I didn't then, I don't now, and I never will. I admit it. At first, all I wanted was to use you, get some money, and disappear. But that's not how I feel anymore. I think I'm in love with you." I finished, my heart hammering against my ribs, and waited. She just stared at me, tears still clinging to her lashes, her eyes red and wide. Will she believe me? Or does she think this is just another angle, another lie to protect the company? God, my reputation for being two-faced is going to ruin me. There's no way she'll buy it. As I was spiraling, Isabel suddenly rose up on her toes. A kiss, cool and salty with tears, landed on my lips. My brain went completely offline. But this time, it wasn't from shock or fear. It was from pure, unadulterated joy. After a long moment, she pulled back. She looked at my dazed expression, and the last of the ice in her eyes melted away, leaving a warm, shimmering pool. "Caleb," she said softly, "your inner monologue is too loud. From now on, if you have something to say it to me. For example," she paused, a slow, dazzling smile spreading across her face. "For example, that you love me.